Hello and welcome to the Car Nut Shop, and welcome to a truck that is somewhat rare, at least in my area. Maybe down in California, someplace where there's no rust, this is more common. But here, this is incredibly rare. This is a T100, Toyota T100. This was basically what became the Tundra later on, but this is how the Tundra humble beginnings are. This truck was a decent truck, but they were horrendous with rust. This one happens to be a survivor that the owner really takes care of it, and it's actually in the shop for a clutch job. We're going to talk about that and how that was really going south for them. But first, let's kind of take a look around it. These things are so cool. Let's go look at the interior a little bit. I mean, the outside, really featureless. Toyota T100. This is the original Tundra. We look at the inside. Things are extremely basic. I mean, look at these gauges, look at everything else. Things are very basic here. They're great. This is the era of Toyota trucks where things were extremely basic. I mean, I love these. Even the sounds they make, it just reminds me of a different era of Toyota. Having said that, let's take a little walk around the truck. This one is actually in great rust shape. When you look at the body, it's good. The only rust spot we have on the body is right here, which is, folks, if you think this is a lot, this is not a lot. For these rust really bad. And as we make our way around it, we have a little bit more rust on the chrome bumper here, but otherwise, this thing is in decent shape. This is an SR5, or somewhat of a base model, T100. Some people have probably never heard of it. This is a 1997. They only ran in the 90s, and then it got replaced by the Tundra. As we make our way here, you see the manual transmission out of this T100 with the transfer case. This is an R150 transmission, really good transmission. It was used in a lot of trucks in this era. Super reliable transmission. And of course, this transmission only needs a clutch. But it is so much more than that, and we're going to dive into it a little bit. Let's put this truck up, let's look underneath it a little bit, and then we'll talk about what happened with this clutch and why the clutch that was previously replaced on this truck is only 1,000 miles old and we're replacing it again. Let's put the truck up in the air. Let's take a look underneath the T100. The first thing is the frame. I mean, you do have some rust on the frame, but it's not terrible. I mean, look here. This is not terrible, but this is how these things are, and this is an absolute survivor in this area. Look at this side, same thing. I mean, tiny little frame. This is a very early days of the Tundra. Spare tire, of course, underneath it. Leaf springs. This is old school. And it closely resembles, in my opinion, a Tacoma more than it does a Tundra, really. Let's go underneath this here and we'll take a look at the rest of it. We look at the rest of the frame here. It's actually not terrible. I've seen a lot worse in a lot newer cars. This is not terrible here. Of course, being an old school, see that old school fuel filter where we used to still have fuel filters. Overall, the owner of this car really took care of it, and we'll talk about what we got going on with the clutch. But you look in the front, you know, basic. This to me looks like Forerunner suspension, not really Tundra. And then we look at the other side, pretty much the same thing. Slight differences. The lower control arm is a little different, but everything else is pretty similar. But then we look at our transmission job. So here's what happened with this truck. The owner brought me this truck and he says he just had the clutch replaced. This was a little while ago. We scheduled this in advance. Now we're doing this job. He just replaced the clutch, and for lack of a better word, the clutch is super grabby and just horrible. And he was wondering, is there better aftermarket options that are more soft, more OEM-like. And I'm like, hey, why don't we just put the OEM? He goes like, oh, they don't make it for this truck. Yes, they do. That's when I checked. They do. And that's the craziest part. The owner is actually shocked that they do, but they do. We have all OEM parts. We did have a little issue with the rear main seal, but we got it. We got actually the right one just in time. It was a little bit of a hiatus to get it. But so far, with this job, here's where we're at. And I'll show you the clutch that we actually found in this car. So the rear main seal on this is, by the way, the 5VZ engine. Well, we didn't look under the hood. We will in a bit. This is an early 5VZ, so the rear main seal has two part numbers. They say both fit, but I was nervous. I got the right one. We actually have the other one sitting in the parts bin. But you have to remove this entire plate. You don't have to, but it's really advisable because this has sealer behind it. You remove this entire plate, get the seal with it, seal it around, put it back with the seal, and life is good. And of course, we replaced the pilot bearing because I'm going to try to make you hear it. That's pretty loud. We put a new pilot bearing because this pilot bearing, if I am not mistaken, is the original one. And mind you, somebody was here 1,000 miles ago. Didn't even bother to replace this. Takes, what, 2 minutes to replace it. You do need a special tool, but it's not the end of the world. It's not really an expensive one. But this is the original pilot bearing, replaced. But here's where things were a problem. When we look at the flywheel, and let me step to the side here, and we're going to look at the flywheel. Now, the owner, when they replaced this flywheel, they told me that they put a new flywheel. And when he told me the price, I was like, there's no way a new flywheel from Toyota costs this much. Because Toyota does not make a remanufactured flywheel. You only have new ones. This flywheel is off of eBay. Unknown quality. I don't even know what it is. I mean, weight comparison, this is a lot lighter than the original. This is, by the way, an OEM one, brand new. And this is, when you get an older car like this, and you're questioning, should I take this and machine it, and by the time of the delay, and just buy a new one. Simple as that. If you don't have vibration stutter, there's no heat marks, just reuse it and you're good. Machining the flywheel is okay, but you really have to go have a good machine shop, and then the turnaround time and the downtime and all that, and then you're paying the machine shop. Just get a new one. Be done with it, especially if this is an old truck that you're trying to preserve and keep, which this owner at this point, this is not their daily driver. This is something more of a toy or something they're trying to preserve here. This is a brand new flywheel. This is what actually caused this job to come to a screeching halt because of these three pins. So Toyota, in their infinite wisdom, decided not to include these $3 each pin in this $750 flywheel. But then if you look here, there is no pins. There are supposed to be 3 pins here. These are the locator pins for the pressure plate. They're not here. And trying to get these out is always a losing proposition. If you notice, I tried to get one of them out. It just got mangled. I don't like it. We're not gonna rig this just to put it together. No, we're gonna wait for the original part, which is available. They're literally $1 each. So we're just gonna wait for the 3 original pins, new, install them, install everything back together. But here's the best part about this, and the part that really, really upsets me. This is a truck that is underpowered, not really, big V8 or whatever. It has a 6-cylinder. I mean, it's hardly the fast truck. And if you go look at aftermarket clutches, they're available in all shapes, OEM-like and whatnot, even though the OEM is available. But somebody decided at some shop 1,000 miles ago to waste this customer's money and put this clutch. Are you serious right now? This is, for lack of a better word, a racing clutch. This clutch is designed to really be super grabby, where you don't have a feel for the clutch. As soon as you let the pedal go, it just engages very strong, and now we're off we go. Same thing with the pressure plate. This pressure plate is actually very, very strong. I can tell from the way it popped. what are we thinking here? First, you can get the OEM one. Second, why are you putting this style clutch in a Toyota truck? Folks, if you have a Supra, if you have some performance car, you put this, it'll be very uncomfortable to drive. If you're doing it for racing applications, and better yet, drag racing, this is the clutch you want to go with, because this clutch is not meant for street. This is a super grabby clutch that will not have you have any slippage or any loss. This will just lock and go. But in a truck like this, it makes it horrendous to drive. I mean, it was scary getting it on the lift because you have no feel. It's either fully engaged or not engaged at all. And this is what I don't understand. I want to share with you the beauty of the OEM parts. Let's come here and look at this beautiful sight. This is what Toyota calls a clutch cover. It's basically a pressure plate. Let's open it. We haven't even opened it. Would you look at that? Beautiful Toyota Aisin, of course. This is no surprise. Brand new on the inside. What is remanufactured about this is the shell is reused, but everything inside, the springs, the plates, the disc and the inside, that's all new. Very available, took a couple days, it was here. So hardly on galactic back order or something unavailable, like the previous shop said. Then here is the actual clutch disc, also remanufactured and beautiful. Do you notice the difference? This is a continuous circle. This is more of a comfort clutch. This is going to be very soft, very easy to engage, and beautiful, and also Toyota. And the best part is, if you look close right here, it has the old school Toyota logo on it, because this truck comes from a different era. I don't understand why this customer within 1,000 or 2,000 miles is paying for two clutches. It is not fair. It's not right, folks. I really feel bad. When initially a customer brought me this car, he's like, hey, I just replaced the clutch and it just feels horrible and I can't take it anymore. And of course, the last part is the throwout bearing. You never replace a clutch without a throwout bearing. Nothing really to it. But what the customer told me, he brought me this car, is I can't bear this clutch anymore. I mean, I don't drive this every day. He doesn't drive this every day, but this is unbearable the way it drives. And I agree. The minute I got in and I drove it, it's unbearable. It's undrivable, for lack of a better word. So this is the problem, folks. I see so many people ignore the original parts altogether and they assume, hey, this is not available. This is too old. Check. Because sometimes you will actually be able to find every single part. They might take a few days to arrive, but for stuff like this, always go OEM unless you are modifying the whole thing and you know what you are doing. But if you're just normal consumer, normal driving, you're going to enjoy this truck. When it comes to clutches, go OEM because they last the longest. They will work exactly like they should, and life is wonderful. Now, the parts availability only goes so far because you guys have seen this car on the channel, and I'll give you a little tour of it again, where it's at. The Supra, the 1988 Supra, which is, every time I look at it, it really brings joy to my heart. But the parts. And when I told you in the previous video, we ended up going with aftermarket parts. And this thing right now is full of parts. Look everywhere inside, in the back. Almost all the parts have arrived. If you look in the back here, everything is here. They're all aftermarket parts. But hey, better than nothing. We have no choice. Majority of these parts are not available OEM anymore. The only thing that I was able to find OEM is the center support bearing. It is actually original. And the best part about this is this actually came from Japan. It is still being made in Japan because they have a lot more cars that use this style center support bearing than we do here in the US. You are able to get this from the dealership, but it's like double the price what you can get it from Japan with shipping. So this is actually an OEM part from Japan. And I was nervous about it because the source, even though I've dealt with them before, but I always question because it's not an official dealership. But this is actually indeed original. I'm very happy with it. And then equally, we have a beautiful 4Runner. This is a 97 4Runner. This thing has 94,000 miles. We're here for some valve covers and whatnot. Every single part is available. Don't assume things, folks. When it comes to Toyota parts, you always have to ask and check. Don't just assume something is discontinued. And then after this, I started looking more into this truck to see kind of what other parts are available. Everything is almost available. I mean, unless you're talking about dash or things like that, everything is available. I mean, it's a 97. It's not that old. It's not 88. So if you own one of these, which are becoming super rare to find, and they are already rare to find in the Midwest because they rust so bad, if you have a preserved one, take care of it, and now you know. You can buy a new clutch. It's actually not expensive. The most expensive part of this job was the flywheel. It was $750. But after talking with the customer, he's like, you know what? I don't want to keep going back, forth. This is my second clutch in 1,000 miles. I'm not going to hold back. Let's use the old flywheel. Let's just do everything right, original parts, and we're done. So I'm glad we got the rear main seal situation resolved, and we're waiting for new pins that's going to arrive tomorrow. But this is the thing. Can I find something to align that clutch disc and throw it on? Let's just get it done? Yes, I can. I'm not going to do that because tying up my lift for a day or two extra is not more important than the customer's truck. The customer's truck being done right is more important. So this will actually, having this delay, because we were supposed to finish this today, will cause our shop a havoc tomorrow because we're fully booked tomorrow. It is what it is. Bottom line, this is why I opened this shop. I don't overbook myself, and if something is not done because we're missing a part, then it's not done. We're going to wait till it's done, and it is what it is. If I need the lift, this truck moves. I can push it to the side, and then we'll push it back in here and get it done. That's how you do automotive repair, folks. So many shops will cut corners, will try to, we'll just install without the pins. You do not put those pins on the flywheel. This clutch is already on its way to destruction because now nothing is lined up, and you're going to have all kinds of problems. And I don't do that here because you know what? This customer's already spent a lot of money with another shop. Now he's spending a lot more here. I want to make sure, see you in 200,000 miles. Folks, always check original parts. This was cheaper than aftermarket parts, except the flywheel, just so you know. Always check original parts, shop around, research. Just like you research how to do a job, research parts. Start with the original, get a kind of a baseline of what the price is, then look aftermarket, research. Because there's no point in going aftermarket if the original is the same price or within a few bucks difference. It just makes no sense. When it comes to Toyotas, maybe other manufacturers are different, but Toyotas, that's what you paid for. The Toyota quality is in their parts. Use them. The bottom line. Let's take a look under the hood real quick so you see how the T100 looks under the hood. Well, this looks extremely familiar. This is a 5VZ FE. It's a different, slightly different version than the one in the 4Runner, but it is almost identical. Now, the T100 does have some old school touches, like the wiper motor that is right there, not underneath the cowl, like the charcoal canister that is under the hood. I mean, these are really the old school touches, but you notice something about the T100. It is super spacious to work on. I mean, look how much space you got here. It's super, super spacious around here. And then the owner does have a K&N filter. I don't really like these, but this is his truck. He can do whatever he wants with it. But things are extremely, extremely simple when it comes to working on this thing. I mean, just look at it. It's wide open. This engine is super easy. I love this engine, super reliable. And then one last old school touch here. If you look all the way in the back here, you have a heater valve. That heater valve right there. This is Toyota's attempt in the past at improving your AC performance. So basically in the summer, or when your heater is not on, that valve will cut off the coolant to the heater core, so there will be heat inside the truck. Of course, this is long gone. This is old ancient history because the newer cars, the AC systems are so efficient, they're so high-tech that they don't need this. They can operate both at the same time, full blast, and it'll be fine. But something about bleeding coolant in cars when you have a valve like that, You have to have the heater on, because if the heater is off, you're going to bleed the whole system, but you didn't bleed the heater core. And then as soon as you turn on the heat, everything goes haywire. Now you have bubbles, you have all kinds of problems. So when you see that valve, you need to have the heater on when you bleed it. If you don't see that valve, you don't have to have the heater on to when you bleed the coolant, because it's always circulating in the heater core anyways. Folks, I hope this video was helpful and informative. I hope you learned something new. If you like it, consider giving it a thumbs up. If you're not a subscriber, consider subscribing to the channel. Check out some other videos. Until the next video, folks, may the Lord bless you and keep you, and you have yourself a wonderful day.